crazy old woman. It was such a beautiful summer, and my last one before I finished high school too, and my parents had to make me take care of this crazy old woman. They slapped down the old "do something productive this summer" speech, and next thing I know, I'm working community service hours at the elderly home. For a teenager forced into community service, I didn't mind too much though. She looked a lot like my own grandma, who had died only a couple years back. She reminded me of my own grandma so much that sometimes I even accidentally called her Grandma. Then she'd frown and whisper, "Don't call me that." This old woman had very late-stage dementia and Alzheimer's that were so severe that she didn't even remember her own name. To top it off, she even had a mild case of paranoia. But as I see it, most elderly people are kind of paranoid anyways. In order not to confuse and upset her by calling her something she didn't remember, I was asked to address her by anything that was general, like ma'am or miss or even honey. The nurses doted on her, calling her sweetheart and darling and all kinds of nicknames. I was asked not to call her Mrs. because she didn't remember her husband and she'd start throwing a tantrum. Despite this finicky problem of addressing her and her occasional quirks and tantrums, she was a sweet old lady. I helped bathe her soft and wrinkled body and brush her silver hair, but my favorite thing to do with her was reading to her. I sat down in the chair in front of her, reading and reading. She'd face me and I'd face her, and she'd love to listen to me read. Sometimes, I think she tried to move her mouth along with mine, trying to mimic my words, which was encouraging, considering she didn't talk much. I did most of the talking, which wasn't very much at all, since we spent most of our time together in silence. I didn't notice anything strange until things had fallen into ritual for me. The first thing I noticed was the weather. It was sunny and blue every single day I visited this woman. Of course, summers are sunny and blue, and I wouldn't have noticed anything all if it weren't for my stupid cloud game. It was a silly childhood game my father taught me to find shapes in the clouds. I still like to play it sometimes while riding my bike when the scenery and roads became monotonous. On my first day visiting the old woman, I found a funny face. And the next time I played the cloud game, I found the same funny face at about the time I arrived at the elderly home. Then I found it again. That same face, the witch with the crooked nose and uneven eyes. As I started getting more and more suspicious, I started looking for that face every day. On days I visited this old woman, I saw that same face in the clouds without fail. On days I didn't visit her, I'd look for it and even strive to see it, trying to convince myself I was shaping the cloud in my mind's eye, but I'd never find that peculiar, twisted face. Soon, I was spooked enough to try to ignore it, but I felt like that face in the clouds was watching me, following me and bearing its ominous presence down on me. I couldn't shake the connection between the old woman and the face in the clouds. Eventually, I started to think that the face in the clouds was the old woman herself. I was starting to obsess over this cloud, and wanting to get some kind of reassurance, I decided to ask the woman about the cloud. We sat down in the chairs facing each other, and I planned to mention it like a silly story or a passing comment before reading to her. Right as I opened my mouth, she said, "You know, my father taught me this cloud game." I don't know why that scared me so much. Probably because I'd been spooked by that cloud for weeks, but maybe even more so because of the intense way she stared at me, like she'd never done before. I screamed and ran out of the room when some nurses grabbed me and asked me what was wrong. They told me to calm down and hugged me while I struggled, and eventually I sat on the floor, silently crying. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" the nurse asked kindly. "Yes, I'd like to go now, please," I answered. They helped me stand up and I shakily made my way home. After that incident, I started to notice other things. I saw her out of the corner of my eye at home. I'd gasp and turn around and see nobody there. I began to wonder if she died at some point in the home and came back as a ghost to haunt me. Maybe it was me who was crazy and paranoid. I stopped going to the elderly home, but I still saw her every day. She no longer seemed like a sweet old woman to me, only menacing and threatening. The thing that finally pushed me over the edge was my makeup mirror. I planned to go out with my boyfriend to take my mind off of things. I raised my tiny handheld mirror to my face. I applied my deep red lipstick and moved the mirror close to my eye to do my eye makeup. The eye that stared back wasn't my own, but rather the eye of the old woman. It was wrinkled and unblinking, staring right at me. I screamed and threw my mirror down on the ground, shattering it. The door burst open and I cried, "Mom!" and ran into her arms. Only it wasn't my mother, it was a nurse, and I was at the elderly home. "What's happening? Please help!" I sobbed into the nurse's arms. It was just me and her in my room. "Sweetheart, are you able to talk to me right now?" the nurse cooed in her soft voice. "Yes, I am. I know you think I'm crazy, but an old woman has been haunting me. I just saw her in my mirror. I see a face in the clouds. I'm going mad. She's haunting me. Help!" I cried. I know what's going on, and I'm going to help you. This is going to be very hard, but it's okay. Everything's okay. The nurse freed me from her embrace and instead kneeled to the ground, holding my hands in each of hers. "My name is Joy Hill. Your name is Mrs. Walker. You married Mr. Walker long ago. You live in this elderly home. You have late-stage dementia, Alzheimer's, and paranoia. Right now, you're having a rare moment of clarity. I know this because you're talking to me, and you usually don't. You're going to be okay, Mrs. Walker. Everybody in this home loves you. You are surrounded by people who want to see you well and take care of you." The nurse spoke slowly but surely. "No, I'm Susan Nelson. I'm in high school." I cried, but in some corner of my decrepit mind I could see my elderly husband's face. I was reminded flashes of our long life together. Joy looked into my face carefully and waited patiently while I wrapped my head around it. I looked around the room. There was my shattered hand mirror. There was the chair I sat in when I read to the old woman. I stood up shakily and was suddenly acutely aware of the aches in my body. I sat down in the chair and saw the old woman sit down in the chair in front of me, entering through the frame of the mirror. I raised my hand, and so did she. Our fingers touched through the cold glass. I cried, and so did she. She looked so much like my grandma. My grandma only died 2 years ago to me. "When did my grandma die?" I asked the nurse. "I'm not sure." Joy hesitated, a bit confused. "She only died 2 years ago. I was in high school," I demanded. "Sometimes you can relive a certain day in your past. It's not so uncommon." Joy approached me and put a reassuring hand on my arm. I stared into the mirror at myself and tried to understand that decades had been ripped from my mind. My husband. I trailed off, afraid to ask. Gentle, loving, funny, beautiful Frank, whom I loved so much. If I saw him, maybe the years could come back. Maybe I can beg forgiveness for forgetting him, and for when I will forget him again. The look in the Joy's eyes told me enough to make me scream I saw him days ago, but now I could never see him. I cried hysterically. Of all the horrible ways I'd been afraid of all the accidents, I didn't know this was how I'd lose him. To my mind, lose a lifetime with him, like I'd time-traveled from the beginning of my adult life to the very end of it. It wasn't fair. A great sadness bent my shoulders and anguished my chest. My mother made me beef pie yesterday. Today she was gone. My dad sat in the rocking chair with me yesterday. Today he was gone. Every one of my friends and family was gone in an instant. To lose everybody you knew and the life you had in a single moment. I never knew this was the thing I should be most scared of. If you made it this far, you're a legend. Leave a like and subscribe so I know you're one of the real ones. Thank you.